I'm trying to make a short summary of the questions of the Hungarian medieval research regarding the reign of Bolesław Chrobry and regarding the relationship between Hungarian and Polish history and at all the Central European relations of these times. So about the structure of the lectures. First of all, we need to talk some words about Hungaro-Polonica, about the activity of scholars, not only historians, but to say lovers of Hungarian and Polish relations, about these questions, how they had the approach to the beginning of the Hungarian and Polish history and the birth of Central Europe. Secondly, we need to pay attention to the question of the sources, how we can approach to the whole problematics. And in the next part, I selected some questions which may be important and which were asked by Hungarian medievalists. The first of all, the genealogy. I'm going to talk about it very shortly because Peter Balling is going to give a lecture on this topic, and I don't want to kill his paper. The second is the coronation and the emergence of the Christian monarchies in Central Europe, and the third one before the conclusion. It will be the question of the conflicts between Saint Stephen and Bolesław the Brave, the Polish-Hungarian eventual wars and conflicts in the first decades of the 11th century. So to switch over to the first question. Everybody knows the well-known poem, the Polak Węgier Dwa Bratanki. The Polish-Hungarian friendship has a very long tradition, and based on this tradition, in the Hungarian, not only in the historiography, but in the Hungarian literacy, I would say, because it affects not only historians but representatives of literary sciences and philosophers, writers and intellectuals in a very wide sense. They represent in their papers and research the idea of the Polish-Hungarian friendship, and these ideas concern also the beginnings of the Hungarian, Polish, and all Central European history. However, I have to stress out that the term of this Hungarian-Polish friendship and conformity, it's an innovation of the 16th century nobility in Hungary. After the Ottoman conquest in Hungary, the Polish nobility became one of the most important examples and idol for the Hungarian nobility. And in the humanistic literacy of the 16th century, we find first the basic terms about the Polish-Hungarian common history. This is the conformitas, bona, vicinitas, and antemurale Christianitatis. However, antemurale Christianitatis has a full life in the late Middle Ages, but bona, vicinitas and conformitas, conformity and the good neighborhood, or to be good neighbors, it's originated in the thinking of the nobility in the 16th century. We should add that conformity has an afterlife in the Hungarian intellectual literature. Not only Bálint Hóman, one of the leading historians in the mid-war period, but also researchers after the Second World War, just like Lajos Hopp, who wasn't was the historian, but he delivered his papers in literary sciences. They argued for the conformity, for the similar or even same points of the development of Polish and Hungarian history. And just one point to this question: the similar development was also represented by historians from the 60s and 70s of the 20th century in Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary, who tried to develop an approach to Central European history at all on base of comparative approach. So the second point of the Hungaro-Polonica research in Hungary was the questions in a bright sense, contactology. First of all, the marriages, the dynastic marriages. Saint King and Jadwiga, Hedwig, this research of marriage is concerned first of all the 13th century and the 14th century, and especially the time of the Angevin dynasty in Hungary, because of the personal unions. And even this history of the personal unions between Hungary and Poland had also some followers in the Hungarian, not only historiography, but in the Polonica research, just like Antal Por, one of the most influential historians in the late 19th century, or a Hungarian or American historian with Hungarian descent, Béla Várdi, who delivered several writings to the question of the first and the second personal union between Hungary and Poland. The second point was the common patterns and common development of legal history. Interestingly, it was represented not by a historian of law or a historian himself, but Adorján Divéky, who was originally a newspaperman, journalist, and he started working on issues of legal history. He's got some famous writings concerning the Golden Bull issued by King Andrew II and the privileges of Košice, Kassa and Buda. And he devoted many papers to this issues. Of course, I have to stress out that the approach to the medieval content of the Hungarian-Polish common history was determined, first of all, by events in the modern times, just like the partition of Poland, or even the spring of nations. Professor Vihoda is arrived. The spring of nations and even the Second World War or revolutions in 1956, or even the decline of the communist systems in Central Europe. And I have also to stress out that this Hungaro-Polonica research did not pay many attentions to some special issues of medieval history, especially the 12th and the 13th century. For example, Ottokar II and the Bohemian how to say, the Bohemian Empire of the 13th century and the consequences of the Bohemian conquest in Central Europe. However, reading the sources of the 13th century, we find a lot of interesting issues concerning Polish and Hungarian history, which not always witness about friendship, I would say. So, for example, the Battle of Dönkrut, there's a good example on the side of the Bohemian kings fought many Polish princes against the Hungarian king. And at the end, and at this point, I have to switch over to the main topic of my talk. The Hungaro-Polonica research is a wide range research devoted to the Polish-Hungarian relationships at all, and that's why Bolesław Chrobry and his times were always only a short part of the considerations. Sometimes the necessary sources were not always deeply researched. That's why we have to take a look at the related sources. So first of all, we have to stress out that, and this is a commonplace for medieval researchers, that there is a lack of charters. So everything we can be familiar with is first of all on base of narrative sources, annals or chronicles or hagiographical texts. And the second special issue is that we have two kinds of tradition. First of all, we have earlier texts from the Roman Empire, for the German Roman Empire, around after, before, and in the year 1000, and from the first half of the 11th century. And on the other hand, we have the sources, the written texts of the dynastic tradition of the Arpads, Piast, and the Przemyslids, especially from the beginning of the 12th century, or at least from the end of the 11th century. This is a problem which determines every considerations regarding the events of the early 11th century, because these two traditions are not always. They're sometimes a little bit controversial and give not the same outcome. Just very shortly, and this later information not for experts we have here among us, but for the wider audience. So we have sources just like the Polish annals, chronicles written on the court of the Polish rulers, Gallus Anonymus, and even very late sources just like Jan Długosz and his famous annals from the 15th century. On the other hand, we have Hungarian chronicles just like or Anonymus, the famous Predictus Magister, and his Gesta Hungarorum. We have a special issue with the oldest Hungarian chronicle tradition, which is unfortunately known in a 14th century compilation, but which contains text from the middle, or at least the last decades of the 11th century on. And we have the hagiography of the Arpadian kings. First of all, St. Stephen's three hagiographical words, or the legend of Saint Emeric. So the general issues of this text is first of all the time of their writing, emergence, and the question of the sources. Whether, for example, the Polish annals first sources of Gallus Anonymus on the contrary, so it's a debate between scholars, which, in my opinion, never will end. But it's the same in the Hungarian historical tradition, that the relationship of the chronicle to the hagiographical text is on some points unclear until today. And one point is the special Hungarica, I would say the Hungaricum, as a special Hungarian issue. In the mid-war period, Francis Vericus Gombos collected all the texts related to the Hungarian medieval history of the Arpads, and he edited not the entire text, but short text from chronicles and others hagiographical texts. And I can remember when I entered the first seminary, Professor Font, some years ago, we were taught from Gombos, from the famous Catalogus Foncium, but they were only short text, and we did not read the entire text. Nobody read them. So with the time we started making the revision of Gombos. Today we have more monographic works to this issue, and so we have a much clearer view. And the second issue is I put this picture from one of my favorite films, Amadeus, the famous scene between Joseph II and Mozart. Joseph II the film is very nice. It's less realistic if we are approaching to the music and the environment of Mozart, but the person of Joseph II second witnesses about everything. Gewaltig viel Noten, mein lieber Mozart. So he could not understand some things, not even historical tradition of other people, and his memory is not the best in the Hungarian national consciousness, and that's why so one of the reasons why not only in the Hungarian historical tradition, but it's a wider issue, the credibility of sources emerged in the empire. Was sometimes questioned. So, for example, we are going to I'm going to talk about Thietmar of Merseburg and the third legend of Saint Stephen. In the mainstream tradition in Hungary, the third legend of Saint Stephen was accepted and was treated more credible than Thietmar of Merseburg for a long time, because Thietmar of Merseburg was a German, and so don't believe people who do not understand Mozart completely. So it's a very complicated issue with these sources. To step forward, I'm going to talk very shortly about it. Peter Balling will give all detailed information. The marriages between Arpads and Piats at the turn of the 10th, 11th century is an enigmatic question and a very complicated question. We have, first of all, the question of Prince Géza and Adelheid, the marriage of Bolesław Chrobry with this enigmatic Hungarian woman whose son was Bezprym, and the marriage of Saint Emeric with the daughter of Meshko I. So these are the main problems, and a single particular question I quoted here has a very large literature and very large problem. So Peter will talk about it. The second is the well-known issue of the making of the Christian monarchy, the papal crown sending to Saint Stephen instead of the pias written in the Legenda Hartviciana. It's a very long text. I quoted here some parts of it, and we know it all very clearly that Poland and not Bolesław the Brave but Mieszko I, supposed to be given a crown, but by a vision seen by Pope Sylvester II, the crown was given to the Hungarians. This tradition became one of the most important and deep traditions in the Hungarian historiography, and the mainstream of the Hungarian research accepted it without criticism. The criticism came first of all by Zoltán Tóth, who at the end of the 30s questioned the credibility of the Legenda Hartviciana. But his paper is very interesting. His paper was not included in the memorial volume of St. Stephen issued in 1938 because of the German Empire, the Third Empire, because many people thought that this vision, which questions the credibility of Legenda Hartviciana and gives more credibility to Thietmar of Merseburg, would give some cards in the hand of the German historiography of the Third Reich. Later, József Gerics, former professor of the University of Budapest, could testify that the Legenda Hartviciana is a credible source, but for the time of the investiture struggles, and it reflects much more the problematics between Coloman the Learned and the papacy than Bolesław the Brave, Saint Stephen, and the millennium. So the legend itself is a compilation, partially, because it relies on the first earlier legends of the first Hungarian king, but it concerns also individual and original parts. One of them is this story about the crown sending for Saint Stephen. Today we know that the intention of the text was to give a response to Pope Urban II letter from 1097. In this letter, the papacy claimed all the rights all the rights of the investiture from Coloman to give back it to the papacy. In the opinion of József Gerics and his followers, the legenda itself was a response to this letter, and showed a vision. And according to this vision, the crown and the legitimacy and the power, the royal power, was given initially by the Pope. So Coloman shouldn't have given back it, because he was given it by the Pope. In my opinion, and this is the short addition, between the approach of the Legenda Hartviciana and Gallus Anonymus in the context of the investiture struggle is very similar, and furthermore, I'm convinced that Gallus Anonymus might have known parts of the Legenda Hartviciana, because there are some text parts which can be traced in the chronicle, and which might have been taken over from the Legenda Hartviciana. Okay, and on this point, to come over to the last point, there is a short remark in Thietmar of Merseburg's chronicle that Bolesław the Brave expelled someone from some procui, called procui, expelled from one of the fortifications on the Polish and Hungarian border. This enigmatic procui, the uncle of the Hungarian king. There's another remark in Gallus Anonymus Chronicle 200 years later, which might have been related to this event. The interpretation in the Hungarian historical research was very complicated and very detailed. Everyone accepted that both Thietmar and maybe Gallus Anonymus reflect the wars between Henry II and Bolesław Chrobry in Poland. And if there was really a conflict on the border, it might have been connected with the Hungarian policy toward the empire and Bavaria. So Henry II was the brother in how to say in English, Schwager. Brother-in-law, thank you very much. So, brother-in-law of the Hungarian king. So, and this way, the Hungarian dynasty might have been in conflict with the Polish king. The second question was, and we have no answer for this. Where this fortification was, and when this enigmatic procui, he might have been Gyula III, the brother of St. Stephen's mother, was expelled. Scholars just like Péter Váci, György Györfy, or even Gyula III took positions in a very wide range of time space between 1003 and 1014. Some of them thought that this expulsion from the fortification might have happened at the beginnings of the Polish and German wars. Gyula III meant, for example, that it was a little bit even later, around 1014. We have no solution of this question. And the last point was whether the narrative left behind by Gallus Anonymus was a reflection to this, even described by Thietmar. There are many opinions. If we read the text of Gallus Anonymus, it's this event is among the laudation of Bolesław the Brave, among the accounting his campaigns and conquests. So, in my opinion, it might have been really a tradition of the Hungarian Polish wars. Now the question is that we don't know what did it really affect it. Gallus Anonymus writes that if we go back for a minute, that the land of the Hungarians was conquered and up to the Danube River. Whether it was on the present Hungarian Slovak border, or whether it was later in today western or northwestern Slovakia, it's unknown until today. So the time went by, to come to a short conclusion. So the first thing is that between the Hungaro-Polonica research and the medieval research in Hungary, there are of course differences. As I have told before, the Hungaro-Polonica research is innovation of the Hungarian-Polish friendship, and it concerns not only history but also cultural relationships, political relationships, and almost everything. And one short part of this approach is the medieval research. On the other hand, the medievalists have a very big problem, so the matter of sources. This is in comparison to Germany. Everyone who knows Monumenta Germani Historica knows that the amount and the scale of sources written for the medieval German history is incomparable to our historiography, but the main problem remains that we are locked up because of the sources. Unless we find new sources, we have only, in my opinion, only new ideas and new considerations, some new approaches. But we would need new sources. And the third question is that, in my opinion, so if we are talking about Hungarian and Polish the history of the Middle Ages, there was less attention paid to the 13th century even. So it's at least in the Hungarian history, it's a little bit so terra incognita. In the last time we have some new monographs. Veronika Rudolf delivered her doctoral thesis about the Bohemian and Austrian diplomacy of the second half of the 13th century, and we are expecting studies from Dániel Bácsatyai and Gábor Barabás from Page, who also prepared papers of this kind. In my opinion, a new way with more sources. With more sources could be this kind of research. And on this point, thank you very much for your attention and give over the word to our first speaker, Professor Dihoda. Thank you very much.